This chilling footage captures 23-year-old fitness enthusiast Molly McLaren at the Chatham Dockside Gym, completely unaware that her obsessive ex-boyfriend, 26-year-old Joshua Stimson, is hunting her like prey. It had been less than 2 weeks since Molly had finally found the courage to end their toxic relationship, and Joshua's response had been a campaign of harassment and stalking. He had spent days preparing for this moment, and by 11 a.m. on June 29, 2017, Joshua was ready to make sure that if Molly wouldn't be his, she wouldn't be anyone's. Before we start, we would like to send our sincere condolences to the loved ones of Molly McLaren. Now let me tell you about this precious girl, because Molly deserves to be remembered for who she really was. She was born on June 26, 1994, in the lovely town of Cobham in Kent, England. Her Mama Joanne and Daddy Douglas described their daughter as the most kind-hearted, bubbly, and beautiful person you could ever meet, and I mean beautiful inside and out. Growing up, sweet Molly had her struggles, just like so many young people do. She battled bulimia and anxiety, but here's what made this girl special. She didn't let those demons defeat her. She worked her tail off to overcome those issues and turned her pain into purpose. She became passionate about promoting self-love, acceptance, and positivity for others who were going through the same battles. By 2015, this determined young lady was ready for a fresh start in life. She enrolled at the University of Kent to study exercise, sport, and health education, following her passion to help others feel good about themselves. She threw herself into that student life with everything she had. She joined societies, played sports, and had the time of her life with her new friends. But Molly didn't stop there. This ambitious girl started her own fitness blog, where she shared motivational quotes and workout videos. She was spreading positivity and encouraging people to love themselves exactly as they were. What a beautiful soul, trying to lift others up after she'd climbed out of her own dark valley. By the summer of 2016, Molly felt like she was in a good place mentally and emotionally. She was ready to find love, to share her life with someone special. So she did what millions of young people do these days. She downloaded that dating app Tinder, and that's where this fairy tale turned into an absolute nightmare. It was on Tinder that our sweet Molly would swipe right on a man named Joshua Stimson. Now this guy was 26 years old, about 3 years older than Molly, and he seemed like he had his life together. But appearances, my darlings, can be more deceiving than a wolf in sheep's clothing. Joshua had grown up in Stoke-on-Trent before moving closer to Molly's area to a place called Woodham near Rochester. Now this is important because this man had been carrying around some serious baggage from his childhood. His parents had gone through a messy divorce when he was just a boy, and his mama had essentially abandoned him, leaving his daddy to raise him alone. Can you imagine? A little boy feeling like his own mother didn't want him anymore? That kind of rejection can twist a child's mind in terrible ways. By the time Joshua was just 12 years old, he was already being seen by mental health specialists. As a teenager, he was a regular patient at the Kingsley House Mental Health Clinic, though the stubborn boy refused counseling and just took antidepressants instead. By 2016, Joshua was working in a warehouse, which isn't a bad, honest job, but his dating history was already showing some red flags. His previous relationship had ended badly, and I mean really badly. During their final fight, this grown man actually spat in his girlfriend's face. Lord have mercy, what kind of man does that to a woman? But Molly didn't know any of this when she matched with Joshua on July 31st, 2016. All she knew was that here was a man who seemed to understand her struggles. He opened up about his own battles with anxiety and depression, and he even told her he suffered from bipolar disorder, though we'd later find out this was a complete and total lie designed to manipulate her sympathy. Like Molly, Joshua claimed to be passionate about fitness and health. They seemed to have so much in common, and Molly felt that instant connection we all hoped to find. After chatting online for months, they finally met face-to-face in November of 2016. Now, this was Molly's first serious relationship, and she was excited about the possibilities. The two started spending more and more time together, and soon Molly was telling her friends that she was falling hard for this man. She thought she'd found her soulmate. But her friends and family? They weren't sharing Molly's excitement. From the very first time they met Joshua, alarm bells were going off like a fire station at midnight. Her friends would later say they always felt on edge when he was around. He wasn't friendly or chatty with them, didn't seem to have any interest whatsoever in getting to know the people who mattered to Molly. And here's another red flag. He didn't seem to have any friends of his own. Now that should tell you something about a person right there. Molly's parents were getting more and more concerned as they watched their daughter's relationship unfold. This man was demanding every minute of Molly's time and attention. He had no respect for boundaries whatsoever. If Molly told him she couldn't see him on a particular day because she had studying to do or plans with friends, he would just show up at her house anyway, like he owned the place. After one weekend where Molly was trying to study while Joshua just sat around her room doing nothing, he had the audacity to text her. "It's unfair me wasting hours of my weekend sat on your bed in silence. Can you believe that? Acting like she owed him entertainment every second they were together?" Poor Molly was starting to feel suffocated by this man's constant presence. She tried to communicate with him like a mature adult, writing, "We can't be with each other 24/7. I feel really pressured." But instead of respecting her feelings, Joshua fired back with insults and emotional abuse. He accused her of taking him for granted and throwing his kindness back in his face. Now, a healthy person would have stood their ground, but Molly was young and inexperienced in relationships. She actually apologized to him. Her friends were shocked watching this manipulation happen right before their eyes. But the manipulation was already deeper than anyone realized. Remember that bipolar disorder Joshua claimed to have? Well, it was all made up, every single bit of it. He had never been diagnosed with bipolar disorder in his life. He concocted this fake illness as a way to control Molly through guilt and sympathy. Here's how his sick game worked. Whenever Molly would make plans with her friends or family, Joshua would suddenly have a convenient mental health crisis that required her immediate attention. She'd have to cancel everything and rush to take care of him instead. It was emotional manipulation at its worst. This possessive man insisted on going everywhere Molly went. If she was invited to a party, he had to come too. If she wanted to have a girls' night, suddenly he needed her support for his depression. Soon, he even quit his job so he could spend more time monitoring her every move. Joshua also used Molly's own past struggles against her. He convinced her that because of her history with anxiety and eating disorders, she needed him constantly by her side for support. He made her believe she couldn't cope with life without him there to take care of her. Before long, poor Molly was telling her friends that she couldn't take it anymore. He was too demanding, too possessive, and they were arguing all the time. After several days of him showing up unannounced at her house, despite being told not to come, Molly finally found the courage to tell Joshua it was over. But she had no idea what kind of monster she was dealing with. This wasn't going to be a simple, mature breakup like normal people have. Joshua completely lost his mind. He started bombarding her phone with messages, begging and pleading for another chance. "Please do not break up with me. I will literally beg. One chance is all I'm asking for. I will do anything." When begging didn't work, he switched to gaslighting tactics. He told Molly that she was seeing everything wrong, that her anxiety was making her imagine problems that didn't exist. He convinced her that she was the one who needed help, not him, and encouraged her to see a doctor about her mental state. And you know what? It worked. This master manipulator successfully convinced Molly that their relationship problems were all in her head. Combined with his relentless pleading and pressure, she eventually took him back. Lord have mercy, how I wish she had trusted her instincts instead. For a little while, things seemed better. Joshua got another job working as an operations assistant at a window company, and his co-workers would later describe him as having two completely different personalities. Sometimes he was bright, charming, and likable. Other times he was dark, irrational, and completely withdrawn. Classic signs of an unstable, dangerous person. But predictably, all the same controlling patterns started up again with poor Molly. He was back to monitoring her every move and demanding all her attention. In April 2017, the couple attended a family party for Molly's aunt's 60th birthday. Throughout the entire evening, Molly's family watched in discomfort as Joshua glared at their daughter with pure hatred anytime she danced, even when she was just dancing with her own cousins. Later that night, Molly sent an urgent message to her mama Joanne, asking her to come to their hotel room. When Joanne arrived, she found Joshua in a complete rage, and what she discovered chilled her to the bone. This sick man had been secretly recording Molly during their private arguments, videotaping her without her knowledge so he'd have ammunition to use against her later. He was showing these videos to her mother like some kind of evidence in a court case. That's when Joanne realized for the first time that there was something seriously wrong with this man. And she wasn't the only one coming to that conclusion. Molly was ready to break up with Joshua again, but she decided to give him one last chance. They had a vacation planned to Tenerife, and against her parents' advice, she wanted to see if maybe getting away together could fix their problems. Well, within just one day of that vacation, Molly was desperately texting home. I made a mistake. I thought this thing with Josh was going to pass, but it's not. It's the worst thing ever. Help me. When she returned from that disastrous trip, Molly told her mama that she didn't have any feelings left for Joshua whatsoever. She just needed to find the right time and approach to end things safely. That moment came on June 17th, 2017. Molly had planned a night out with friends in Maidstone to celebrate her 23rd birthday. Even though she and Joshua had been arguing for days, they were still technically together and decided to put their problems aside for one evening. But it didn't take long before Joshua was in one of his dark moods again. This time, though, Molly had finally reached her breaking point. Right there in the middle of the crowded nightclub, she told him it was completely over between them. Joshua's reaction was terrifying. He shouted at her friends, "She's finished with me." The look on his face was pure rage, the kind of fury that makes your blood run cold. Her friends had never seen this violent side of Joshua before, but sadly, it wouldn't be the last time. Nobody expected Joshua to handle the breakup well, but they had no idea what kind of nightmare was about to begin. For Molly and her family, the real horror was just getting started. When Joshua's desperate pleading failed to win her back, he turned nasty. Molly blocked him on every platform she could think of, but that just made him more determined to hurt her. Joshua took to social media with a vengeance, posting messages specifically designed to humiliate and destroy Molly's reputation. He told the world that Molly, this fitness enthusiast and health education student, was actually a drug addict. He posted their private, intimate messages for everyone to see, making sure to tag her family members so they'd all witness her humiliation. His post said things like, "You are a cokehead. Have you been honest that you need to stop sniffing gear?" Even lying to your own mom. Just absolutely vicious lies meant to destroy this innocent girl's life. Since Molly had blocked Joshua, She only found out about these attacks when her worried cousin called to tell her what was happening. She was absolutely horrified. She knew Joshua could be spiteful, but she never imagined he was capable of this level of cruelty. On June 22nd, Molly and her mama printed out all the evidence, every nasty text, every social media post, and marched down to the North Kent police station. They met with Officer Philpott, who called Joshua and put him on speakerphone right there in front of them. The officer warned Joshua to stop his harassment immediately or face prosecution, but Joshua's responses were chilling. He kept saying, "I haven't done anything wrong," over and over again. Then finally, "If you think I have, there's more to come." When Officer Philpott said, "We wouldn't want Molly to come to the station again about you, would we?" Joshua's answer sent shivers down everyone's spine. He simply said, "Wouldn't we?" But here's where the system failed Molly completely. Despite everything Joshua had done, the police report concluded that his actions didn't constitute harassment under the law and weren't criminal offenses. Can you believe that? The very next day, Joshua had the nerve to show up at that same police station with his own complaints. He claimed that Molly was spreading rumors about him being in trouble with police, and it was damaging his reputation. The officers advised him to stop contacting Molly and remove his posts, but there were no real consequences. Just 2 days later, Molly had to contact police again because Joshua had posted more abusive content. The incident was logged and passed to Officer Philpott, but he wouldn't be back on duty for several days. By this time, Molly was genuinely scared of what Joshua might do. Her family started showing his picture to neighbors, asking them to call if they ever saw him near their house. On June 27th, Molly got what would be her final call from police. They told her the good news. Joshua had removed the offensive posts because he didn't want potential customers seeing them. But what nobody knew was that Joshua had a much more sinister plan in mind. 1 week earlier, this monster had gone shopping at local hardware stores. In one shop, he bought a large knife. In another, he purchased a pickaxe. Both weapons were now hidden in his car, ready for use. He'd also found a way to keep tracking Molly, despite being blocked. Some woman he'd met on a Tinder date agreed to friend Molly on all her social media accounts and report back to Joshua about everything she posted. This poor woman had no idea she was helping a stalker hunt his prey. On the evening of June 28th, Joshua made plans to meet yet another Tinder date at a very specific location, the exact same pub where he knew Molly would be celebrating with her friends. It was a beautiful summer evening when Molly posted a happy selfie to Snapchat, writing, "Ship and trade this eve," with a little heart. She'd changed all her usernames and created new accounts to try hiding from Joshua, but it wasn't enough. When Molly and her friends arrived at the Ship and Trades pub, they were just trying to have a good time after months of stress. But when Molly went to the bar to order food, she came back looking like she'd seen a ghost. There was Joshua, sitting calmly with his Tinder date, watching her every move. He even walked past her table later, making sure she knew he was there. Molly told her friends he was just some psycho and finished her drink quickly so they could leave. Those would be the last words her friends would ever hear her speak. The next morning, June 29th, Molly was at her gym bright and early. She'd been going there daily to film workout videos for a personal training course she was taking. The place was empty when she spread out her mat and started exercising. But just minutes later, Joshua arrived. Security cameras captured everything that happened next. He rushed up the stairs, spotted Molly through the doorway, then did a suspicious U-turn before coming back and entering the room. Joshua grabbed an exercise mat and started fake stretching right next to where Molly was working out, clearly intimidating her. She even caught him in her workout video before going over to confront him. When Molly asked why he was there and why he wasn't at work, he aggressively told her it was none of her business. So she left for another part of the gym and started sending frantic texts to her support system. At 10:45 a.m., she texted her mama, "Mom, he's turned up at the gym and come right next to me." When Joanne called and told her to come straight home, Molly also texted her friend Amy with a photo of Joshua stalking her in the gym. At 11 a.m., Molly sent what would be her final message, saying she thought Joshua had left and she was heading home. She packed up her things and walked out to the parking lot, completely unaware that Joshua was circling in his car like a shark, waiting for the perfect moment to attack. At exactly 11:08 a.m., Joshua made his move. Molly looked up to see him violently yanking open her car door, and before she could even scream for help, he started stabbing her with that knife he'd purchased days earlier. This monster attacked her with such vicious fury that he stabbed her more than 75 times. He didn't stop until he was absolutely certain she was dead. Then he calmly stepped back, covered in her blood, and waited for police like he'd just completed some mundane task. When officers arrived, he casually wiped blood from his face and said matter-of-factly, "It's me you're looking for. She's in the car. I've killed her." Despite paramedics' heroic efforts, beautiful Molly McLaren was pronounced dead at 11:43 a.m. She was just 23 years old with her whole life ahead of her. During his trial, Joshua tried to claim he had a personality disorder that made him not responsible for his actions. But two psychiatrists had very different opinions. The defense experts said Joshua had borderline personality disorder, but the prosecution psychiatrist said he was just an immature narcissist with no remorse. The jury didn't buy Joshua's excuses for 1 second. After less than 4 hours, they found him guilty of murder. But here's what really broke my heart during that trial. 2 other women came forward with their own horror stories about Joshua. Leah Hubbard told how he'd broken into her house at 2 a.m. and spat a drink in her face when she rejected him. Alexandra Dale described how he'd stalked her, slashed her tires, and sent threatening messages after just 1 date. Most shocking of all, Alexander had reported Joshua to police 3 separate times in 2013, but his behavior was never properly recorded as a crime. If it had been, Kent police would have seen his dangerous pattern when Molly reported him, and maybe, just maybe, they could have saved her life. Judge Adele Williams didn't mince words at sentencing. She told Joshua, "You were determined to punish her for finishing with you. She was 23 years old, beautiful and intelligent. You are a highly dangerous young man who will pose a considerable risk to women for a very considerable time." He got 26 years in prison. Today, while Joshua sits in his cell, Molly's beautiful legacy lives on through the foundation her family created. The Molly McLaren Foundation helps fund eating disorder awareness and support, turning their tragedy into hope for others. But most importantly, darlings, Molly's story teaches us that stalking isn't romantic persistence. It's a crime that escalates to violence. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Trust those gut feelings that tell you something's not right. Poor sweet Molly tried to tell everyone that Joshua was just some psycho, and she was absolutely right. If only someone had listened and taken action before it was too late. Until next time, stay safe out there, my precious ones. And remember, you deserve love that lifts you up, not love that controls and destroys you.